What's happening, everybody? Hello and welcome back to Gaming 101 with Mr. Berger. Tonight we're going to take a look at this Lava-No-LOON deck. That's right, it's a Lava Hound deck without a balloon in it. Now it sounds like it might not work, but it's actually really interesting and effective. Now this deck, I don't want to say that it was founded by, but it was popularized by Thimo. He's a Sandstorm pro. It was covered by Clash with Ash, and he gives some general Lava Hound tips in a video about it as well. So I'll go ahead and link that in a card and in the description below, and you can take a look at that if you want to see another more professional video about this deck. Regardless, let's go ahead and look into my variation of it, some tips that I picked up from watching that video, and some own tips of my own. Some very own tips of my own. Alright, anyway, one thing that you'll notice is that I'm actually running Zap. Generally, this deck would run arrows. You often see lightning paired with arrows, especially in Lava Hound decks. That seems to be very effective. So I use Zap because I have a higher level Zap. My Zap is level 12 and it's just about to be level 13. I'll get it level 13 like tomorrow, literally. I'm super close. And then it'll be able to one-shot level 11 minion hordes and level 11 minions. And if I'm not mistaken, level 12 goblins, right? Anyway, that's why I run Zap in the place of arrows. Normally you would be running arrows in this deck. Now this deck is very off meta. It's very unusual in this current meta, and that can kind of play to your advantage. These off meta decks sometimes actually can allow you to win because you're running certain cards or certain combinations or certain win conditions that your opponent might not be expecting. So let's talk about some of these off meta aspects. Well, first of all, you're running Lightning. Now Lightning is not very popular in the current meta. And why is that? Because it was nerfed twice in a row. Lightning got the nerf stick real bad. They reduced its range, which completely changed its interaction with the Hog Lightning decks, which is what I was actually running, a Hog Lightning Tornado Executioner deck before they nerfed it, because it was now unable to hit both the Princess Tower and the Inferno Tower if they placed their Inferno Tower properly at the same time with one lightning. So that's why I particularly don't like the nerf, because I was running a deck that ran it. But regardless, that's why you won't see it a lot. So because of that, you can kind of catch them off guard with the lightning. They won't be expecting that lightning, especially if you hang on to it for a little while and you get some super powerful, super huge value out of it. Now let's think about that. It counters a lot of meta heavy cards. A lot of these support units are very susceptible to lightning. For example, you're always going to see musketeers in most metas, right? That's the go-to example. You see a lot of E-Wizes in this meta. You've been seeing E-Wiz a lot since he was dropped because he's so powerful. You see some more and more magic archers because more and more people are picking up that magic archer card and they're learning how to use it. You also see a lot of flying machines, particularly with P.E.K.K.A decks and with Golem decks. I see a lot of flying machines on Golem decks, and I run it myself. I love the flying machine Golem combo. Now, you can catch them off guard, as I mentioned, and it's very powerful. Let's think about the potential here. Let's say they have an equal level witch and a wizard. That's 5 plus 5 elixir. That's 10 elixir. You catch them off guard, and you lightning their witch and their wizard and their princess tower. That's 6 elixir for their 10 elixir. That just gave you plus 4 elixir, and on top of that, you got some really solid chip damage off on their princess tower. So the lightning has huge potential because of the fact that it's off meta. The fact that this deck does not have a balloon in it continues to make it off meta. There's a good example of the lightning. I was able to shut down that wizard and get some chip damage off. Now, they might be expecting a balloon. They're like, Lava Hound, okay, where's the balloon? And they're getting ready to counter the balloon, and they put down whatever their counter is for the balloon, and then like their minion horde, and then you just arrows it and it's gone, right? So because of the fact that it has no balloon in it, that continues to make it off meta, and that can be played to your advantage. Now let's talk about countering pumps really quickly, and I want to stress this more later, but just really quickly, lightning and miner are the two things that you can use to shut down elixir pumps easily. You don't want to let your opponent build up elixir with the elixir pump against this deck, because it will run you over, it will destroy you. So make sure you counter those elixir pumps real hard, and I'm going to stress that again later. Okay, how about your opening move? Well, it's okay to open with your Lava Hound, and according to Clash with Ash, you usually want to make sure that you have guards or Tombstone in your hand to counter what they're going to send in response. So if you put your Lava Hound in the right lane like I just did, he's probably going to send in like a Hog or something in the left lane, and that's when you got your Tombstone to counter that Hog and completely shut it down, or some guards to beat it up. And these guards have huge potential with that shield, and I'm going to talk about those too in a little bit. But there's some good examples in this replay of how the guards live through a fireball and continue to smack on that Hog. Alright, so next thing that we want to talk about, as I mentioned, it's okay to open with your Lava Hound if you have those counter cards in hand. Usually, if you don't, you may want to cycle in the back or just kind of play safe and react to them until you get your Lava Hound in hand. That's when you go for your kind of big play, alright? Alright, so when you do send in your Lava Hound in single time elixir, it is safe to send it in. You want to be cycling through this Lava Hound. Don't be afraid to use it. When you do send it in though, don't commit too much elixir to support it, because you're not doing this huge Lavaloo push combo. You're just kind of getting this solo Lavaloo in there, and he's kind of chipping away. And if a Lavaloo sent in, if a Lava Hound, I've already said that like 500 times, if a Lava Hound is sent in alone, then they're possibly going to ignore it, right? Because a lone Lava Hound doesn't feel like too much threat, but you'd be surprised. It gets some really solid chip damage off on the tower, and then when they finally do put down their wizard or whatever to counter it, you just lightning that fool, and he blows up, and it gets more chip damage on their tower, and then all your pups do a bunch of damage. It's great. Okay, so when you send him in single elixir, usually only support him with one troop, probably an Inferno Dragon or a Mega Minion, because you want to save those other cards, like the Tombstone and the Guards, to play defense and to counter. Okay, next thing that I want to talk about. Have your spells ready when the Hound crosses the bridge. So when that Lava Hound gets across the bridge, be ready to counter what they've got. If you know they have Minion Horde, use your Zap or your arrows. If you know they're going to counter with like a Wizard or something, get that lightning ready, alright? So be ready to counter what they have. Feel out their deck and you'll get a little bit of a better grip on what spell you're going to need to use to preemptively counter what they're going to place down, or to counter it as soon as you see it. Okay, now let's talk about those guards for a little bit. Now those guards are really great in the current meta for a number of reasons. Well, first of all, they're buffed. They were hugely buffed in one of the recent patches. They got a massive buff to like 3 separate stats, and it made them extremely powerful, so I would highly recommend them in just about any deck where you need that kind of little pokey melee unit to kind of defend and maybe counter push and add a little bit extra support, kind of like what a goblin or a skeleton would do. So guards have been buffed, they got that shield effect, and as you saw earlier, if they send in a Hog with a fireball comboed and your guards are placed to counter the Hog and that fireball hits their guards, even if they rocket it, even if they lightning it, the first blow will be absorbed by the shields. So those guards will stay alive. Of course, poison will do a little bit better job of countering them, but as far as like the other 3 that I mentioned go, fireball, rocket, and lightning, those guards will live through them and continue to stab away on top of the Hog. And on top of that, they got long range. So as you saw earlier, not only did their shield allow them to survive the fireball blast comboed with the Hog, but they were also knocked back. Regardless, they were able to continue to stab away instantly without having to spend time running back to the Hog, because they may be categorized as melee range, but the range is actually a little bit longer because they got those long stabby kind of spear-like weapons, similar to the Prince and his lance. Look at that lightning value there. Oh man. Alright, so those are the advantages of the guards. Now let's talk about your miner. Your miner has a very special role, and it's very specific in this deck. Now, of course, you want to save him for pumps, first priority. Miner those pumps. And we'll talk about more pump countering strategies a little bit later. For the princess, you will use the miner on the princess to completely shut her down, because you don't have a fireball, you don't have a log, you do have arrows if you're running arrows in the place of zap. So you could use the arrows on princess as well, but what you're doing is you're using miner to counter, get good value out of him, right? The Lava Hound's tanking, they got a musketeer or a wizard down, destroying your Lava Hound. You send in that miner on top of that wizard or that musketeer, and he will beat him up and destroy them, and that'll take out their support. So use your miner wisely. Make sure he's got a clear target, alright? Don't just send him in willy-nilly, right? Make sure you know what you're sending him in for. Use him to counter something, use him to destroy some support, use him to do a little bit of extra tanking, and then when you get into double elixir time, you can actually use him a little bit more aggressively, use him to chip away at the tower, use him to tank for the lava pups, something that you wouldn't want to do in single elixir time in this deck. And there you go. That's how you use the miner. Look at this little finish here. I'm going to give him a GG, and the one lava pup flies up. Oh, that's great. It was just kind of fun. It was comical. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the next replay here. This is versus Golem Double Prince, pretty solid deck in the current meta. Alright, so let's talk about how you're going to counter tanks. So against tanks, you're going to use your guards, you're going to use your Inferno Dragon, obviously, and you're going to use your Tombstone. Your guards can chip away at the tanks and the support, and they live through most spells. Your Inferno Dragon obviously shuts down big tanks, that's his main job, right? And of course your Tombstone can be used to distract the tank, the Golem, or the Giant, or the Lava Hound. And if it's a ground unit, those skeletons will also smack away at them. So that's how you answer tanks. Now let's talk specifically about Golem, or really heavy beatdown decks. How are you going to counter that? Well, surprisingly, I learned that you go same lane. So when you see that Golem, you actually place your Lava Hound in the same lane all the way back. And there's a specific reason for this, and that is that the Hound is going to fly across slightly after their Golem comes across the bridge, because you placed your Hound after their Golem, right? And then your Hound is going to fly over into their territory, and it's going to distract all of the Golem's support. It's going to distract the musketeer or the wizard or whatever it is, okay? And then it's going to blow up, maybe, or maybe it'll survive. Regardless, in that time you're using your Inferno Dragon to destroy their Golem or their Giant, and you're using your Tombstone to pull it away from your Princess Tower, and you're using your guards to chip away at it, and so on and so forth. And then that Inferno Dragon and those guards, ideally, will go on to a counter push. So you counter the Golem, and those go on to a counter push. Now, then, they'll destroy their support. That's what you want, right? They destroy the Golem, they run up, they destroy the support, and then they run into the enemy's territory into a deadly counter push. Worst case scenario, you clear the board, or you clear the arena, or whatever you want to call it, and it's kind of a wipe and you guys start over. And that's exactly what you want with the Golem deck. You don't want them to break through and get this massive push. So if you can completely shut them down, that's a good thing, because you know that you can stop their push. Maybe you can catch them off guard and get a very deadly push of your own in. So once you figure out this deck, you'll find like which spells to use to make the most of your counter push. So when you see your units going into that counter push, of course, they're going to try to defend against it. Maybe they only have 5 elixir because they invested a lot in their initial push. You defended, your units are going into a counter push, they place down their minion horde, you arrows it, and it's dead, and then they're just, out of luck. That's it. Can't do anything. And you push and you win the game. So think about the timing and the placement of your spells, right? And think about feeling out their deck and knowing when to place your spells on the counter push, and which spell to use, the lightning or the arrows, or the lightning or the zap. Okay, now let's remind ourselves about the pump. You want to punish the pump. You cannot allow the enemy to pump up and gain that elixir advantage against this deck, or with this deck rather, because it will allow them to just snowball and just blow you up. I mean, this is apparent according to some of the other strategies that I've read and seen in videos and stuff. Now, why don't we go ahead and see, is this going to end the match there? Yes, it is. So that was versus Golem Double Prince. So I'm going to run into another replay here, but let's keep talking about the pump. So the miner and the lightning, those are your go-to strategies. Those are your go-to counters for the pump. Yeah, this is the right deck. Okay, so those are your go-to counters for the pump. So use your miner strategically. Your lightning is pretty much a positive or an equal trade for the pump. I believe it completely shuts it down at equal level now because the elixir pump got nerfed a little while back and its HP got reduced. So lightning is a good trade because then you chip away at their tower with the lightning and you completely shut down their pump. Of course, your miner shuts down pumps really well too, even if you can get just a few swings off. And use your miner strategically, right? So consider sending in a distraction. Send in like your Inferno Dragon or your Mega Minion or even your Lava Hound, something that causes a lot of threat that they have to answer, maybe in the opposite lane, and then send in your miner on their pump. So they've invested their elixir in countering whatever you sent in initially, and that miner can safely destroy their pump for a positive elixir trade. A miner only costs 3, a pump costs 6. A miner can easily shut down a pump in a few seconds if left uninterrupted. So he's great for that. So consider sending in a distraction before you send your miner in. Alright, so what are we going to talk about next? Use your lightning on the pump if you're going up against a 3 musketeers deck. Don't save it for the 3 musketeers because you cannot allow them to snowball. It does not keep up well against pumps, so just shut those pumps down with your lightning and with your miner, alright? Now I want to skim over card replacements really quick. And guys, this deck was really great. I do a lot of matches, as I mentioned, while I'm running, when I'm doing cardio at the gym on the treadmill, and I did like 5 in a row wins with this. It was pretty awesome. I was messing around with Lavaloo decks, and I just wasn't having luck. I'm just really bad at the Lavaloo archetype, but I have a level 3 Lava Hound. It's my only level 3 legendary. Everything else is level 2 or level 1. And so I'm like, I want to do this Lava Hound deck, and I looked this one up. I remember seeing it, and it was great. I love it. So really quickly, card replacements. For Zap, obviously you can replace it with Log, but you kind of want to be able to counter air, so I would go for arrows, maybe even an E-Wiz for that stun effect, so that you can, you know, have the potential to combo with your, what do we call it, the Lava Hound, and E-Wiz is just a great card all around. Now, for the Tombstone, I was thinking like a cannon or a tornado for defense. I was also thinking maybe a Goblin Hut would be better because it can play that defensive and kind of spawn or chip damage role, which is kind of what the Tombstone does. It plays a kind of hybrid synergy with that. I'm not specifically sure why Tombstone is so popular in Lava Hound and Lavaloo decks, but I see it all the time in most Lavaloo decks. For Mega Minion, my go-to would probably just be like minions, maybe even a minion horde. Mini P.E.K.K.A. might be fun because it plays a similar role to Mega Minion, except it doesn't attack air and it's a ground unit, but it has slow attack, slow movement speed, and very high damage. So for guards, Skeleton Army and Golem Gang are usually used in Lava Hound decks in the place of guards, so that would be my go-to replacements. Maybe mess around and try a cycle card or goblins or something. For lightning, you could do Fireball or Rocket, just another medium or heavy spell. If you're doing the lightning, instead of lightning, if you're running Fireball, the Fireball Zap combo works really well in Lava Hound decks too. I see that a lot. For Miner, I don't know, it's kind of hard to replace. He's pretty core in this deck, but if you have to, I would generally just go for a mini tank, like a Knight or an Ice Golem, or maybe like a Bandit or a Ramp or something for that charge effect. So lastly, I want to show a loss here, finish up talking about these card replacements, and then call it a video. I want to make sure I show at least 1 or 2 losses in most, if not all of my videos, to show that, hey, I'm not that great, and of course to learn from my own mistakes and show you guys how we can learn from our mistakes by watching our own losses and our replays, seeing where we messed up, seeing how we could have done things better, and trying to do so later in the future. Alright, so we talked about guards, we talked about lightning, we talked about Miner. Inferno Dragon, I guess Inferno Tower, maybe another fun area unit like Minion Horde, something that combos well with Lava Hound. I think of Inferno Dragon as something that's like, you know, mid-cost. It costs 4, Minion Horde does cost a little bit more, it costs 5, but they play a similar role in that they have really high damage, and they can really shut down very high health units very powerfully, but I don't know, they're a little bit different. They are both susceptible to zap, but Minion Horde is a bunch of weak guys, whereas the Inferno Dragon has that huge, you know, beam build-up potential that annihilates a tower and all these things. I mean, I would just run Inferno Dragon if you don't have a main meet the tower. Lastly, of course, if you replace the Lava Hound, that would completely change the archetype of the deck. I mean, maybe go like Golem or Giant or something and mess around and have fun with it, but I don't know, it would totally like change the archetype, and it would give you a whole different deck because you're running a Lava Hound deck here, and that really defines this deck. So I wouldn't replace that with anything. If you're gonna try to run something else and you don't want to run one of the things suggested, maybe find a different deck, because this is really based around that Lava Hound Lightning Miner combo. That's what makes this deck so ridiculous and powerful. Alright, so let's see what I do here. I probably really need to answer those E-Barbs, and I don't have too much to answer, so I sit in my Miner defensively. I opt to use my Inferno Dragon to shut them down, and of course the Tombstone actually does a good job, and I was wrong. Hey, I shut it all down pretty well with the guards. So let's see what happens next. Now everything is shutting those guys down, and then they're going on to a counter push like I mentioned earlier. So he's got to answer that Inferno Dragon now. He can't leave it unanswered. I got Lightning in hand, so what I was thinking about doing is maybe Lightning his Wizard, but I decided against it there. Probably would have been pretty good. I go for the Lava Hound. Oh no, I don't. I was thinking about it. See, maybe there was like all these different moves I could have done differently, all these different plays I could have made. Maybe I wasn't in the best state of mind when I was doing this match because it was a little bit later than the other 5 wins in a row. Alright, anyway, I shut down that P.E.K.K.A, and I'm going for a counter push here. The Valkyrie does a good job, of course, of shutting down my swarm units, my guards, and my skeletons left over from the Tombstone. He's got a pretty deadly counter push going. I set the Tombstone down on defense because it pulls his guys away from my tower. I use Lightning defensively because I'm kind of like, oh, I don't have much in hand. It's mostly air units. I need to distract those E-Barbs and that Valkyrie. And actually do a pretty good job of shutting it down there. So at this point, it's looking good for me. But you know what? Maybe this is where I go wrong. Let's see. Do I shut down that pump or not? Well, let's see. I put the Tombstone on defense. Yeah, I shut it down with Lightning. Okay, that's good. Alright, let's see where I go wrong. Well, now we're in overtime. and he's got a P.E.K.K.A coming down the lane. Alright, so we got my Lava Hound going. Ooh, he's going for a big push. This is probably how I lose, because he's got the P.E.K.K.A and the Mega Knight. I don't think I've even seen the Mega Knight this match. If I have, not very often. And he pulls my Inferno Dragon away. Very good play, Senior Alefizinho. That was really good use of the Tornado to pull my Inferno Dragon away, and that allows his Mega Knight to connect to my tower. Awesome, that was really good. Good way of finishing me off. So honestly, let's see, I could have done things a little bit better. I was playing quite well that match now that I look back at it, but of course there's always things that you can do better. And he played really well, and he caught me off guard at the end there. He got a big push going, he pulled my counter away, shut it down, and just connected to my tower, and that was it. Alright everybody, that is my video for this Lava-No-LOON deck. So thank you so much, as always, for watching. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, and on top of that, hit that little bell, because I know a lot of people have been mentioning to me recently that they haven't seen like when I go live, because I've been streaming. And by the way, I think I figured out the stream lag issue. So hit that bell and maybe it'll pop up on your phone, because I noticed that the phones seem to be a little bit more responsive than the computer notifications as of late. I'm sure YouTube is working that out. Regardless, thanks so much for watching everybody, and have a good night.